What's good everyone, welcome back to part 4 of this very long tutorial. Now in this part is going to be a little bit more complicated, so if you need to, just slow the video down. So without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so welcome back and let's get started with the midsole, or the outsole, depending on how you want to look at it. So let's go Shift A, add in a cube, just scale it down a little bit, bring it to the right place. Let's bring it up over here. And then let's just scale along the X. So something like that looks alright. Let's just pull this a bit forward, just a little bit more. Just so it's kind of the right shape basically. Pull this down a little bit. Let's maybe bring it up, let's bring it back down a tiny bit. And I hope these tutorials aren't too complicated for you guys. If it is, just let me know in the comments. Just add some loop cuts, let's add about 12 of these. Something like that, just to give us some points to edit basically. So let's go top view and scale it along the Y. About that much. That looks alright. And then what we're going to do, we're going to go in and just pull the vertices and just kind of get it the right shape. So let's add the loop cut in the middle first. And then let's go. So I'm going to speed this part up and yeah, I'll catch up with you guys soon. Alright, so now that we have all the vertices in the right place, let's just add some loop cuts on the side. And just bring this in. Maybe pull this back a little bit. So it's already getting the right shape basically, to be honest. Maybe pull this back in a little bit. Again, you can make it look however you want, it's really up to you. Something like this. Looks pretty good, as you can see. That's not too bad. Pretty much got the base shape of it. So now let's just bring all of these vertices down to kind of get it lined up. So let's go in again, go into X-ray mode, Alt Z. And we're just going to follow this shape here. So let's just bring all of these down. So let me just pull these back a little bit. It's going out a little bit too much. Let's just bring them back in. Let's go front view. Bring this back up as well. Kind of just tweak the whole shoe basically. Just get everything in the right place. You should know that by now. So let's bring these up as well. Alright, so now you can see we've got everything all in the right place at the right scale. So let's just adding a subdivide. So Control 1, just add a subdivision, make it look a bit more rounded. Let's add a loop cut here. Just gonna give it a bit more structure, I guess. Let's just bring that up a little bit, something like that. Doesn't look too bad. Let's just bring these up a little bit. Doesn't look too bad, looks pretty good. And let's just make sure it's actually the right place, it's intersecting with the mesh. So you see how the front is a gap, let's just bring those up as well. So select them and let's bring it along the X. Something like that. And then let's just bring these up, just to kind of hit the mesh. So bring them up, remember to use proportional editing. And there you go, that looks pretty good there. Let's go front view. So as you can see, there's a little arc going on there on the midsole, so let's start with that. So it looks like it starts from here to about there. So press Control between those vertices and let's just double press G, slide them up. Probably about there, something like that. Let's bring that back down a little bit. So let's shade smooth. Let's just check a little bit, see how it's looking. So let's just bring some of these up a little bit, kind of get a bit more rounded. Let's just bring this down around there, just kind of follow the curve. Bring this forward a bit, something like that. Looks pretty good. Bring this up maybe a little bit, bring this one down a tiny bit, kind of just follow the shape. So let's do the same exact thing but on the other side. Let's go press 1, so in front view, press 9 to flip it. And then let's go back into edit mode. So let me just kind of hide this. There we go. So yeah, select the same vertices but on the other side. So from here to about there. Double press 3 and bring those up. I kind of just try to match it to the other side. Try to get as close as you can, basically. Something like that. Doesn't look too bad. And remember, keep those vertices in the middle, so you kind of get like a tapering effect. So let's go to bottom view. You can kind of see the effect happening a little bit, although it's not so sharp. So what we're gonna do is bring these vertices in. Actually, let's go back into front view real quick. So front view, and then let's select these vertices here, and then press Shift E like that, and then we're just gonna mark it as sharp basically. So down here as well, maybe not so much. There we go. Let's do the same thing on the other side. So select them and Shift E and kind of move your mouse away. So the darker the color, so the more purple it is, the sharper the line will be basically. So let's select these, the same edges as before. Double press G and let's bring them in just a little bit. And let's just bring them in like so. And let's kind of just follow this curve you can see here. It's kind of, I'm just moving these vertices out of the way. Alright, so now let's just put them in the right shape. Let's bring these down. Something like that. That looks pretty good. There we go. You won't see the full effect as of now yet, but let's kind of move these down. And let's just increase the subdivision by 1. That looks a little bit better. Okay, so select these edges here, and we're just going to bring those out along the Y. Something like that. Let's do the same with this top one. Just bring out just a little bit, just make it a bit more flatter along that side. Something like that. Let's just bring this back out. Let me bring this down. I didn't even realize this, I didn't even notice it. But yeah, something like that. Then let's just bring everything back out, because it's kind of going in right now. You can see it's slowly taking shape as of right now. Let's just bring this down a little bit. We don't want to clip in with the top vertices. Select all of these, and same thing, let's bring it along the Y. And do the same for the top. Oops. There we go. Kind of just making it a bit more flat and a bit more pronounced. We're kind of just making the shape a bit more pronounced. So let's let these vertices in here and bring those down just a tiny bit. Something like that. Look, that's right. Bring these up. Bring these up as well. Kind of give them the right shape. So let's select these ones and press Shift E. Again, we're adding a sharp basically. And bring this down, something like that. You can see slowly taking shape. So let's select these and bring those down. Something like that, rotate it just a tiny bit. Bring it about there, something like that. And let's do the same thing on the other side. So these ones here. So from there to there, and double press G, bring those down. Let's go to X-ray mode so I can actually see what I'm doing. But anyways, let's go back in here and let's select all of these like we did earlier and give a bit more of an arc shape. And select all of them, shoot me. Select all of them, Shift E, mark sharp. Let's bring those down. Something like that. Again, let me just fix these edges here. That looks pretty good. You can see. Now you can notice the edge a bit more. So let's turn on auto smooth. Now you can see the edge is pretty sharp there. So let's just bring this up. Kind of play with it until you get something you like. Let's move it up a little bit. Something like that. Doesn't look too bad. If you want to show a bit more, you can select it like that. And add a bevel. Press Ctrl B. and then scroll up once. Something like that, and then join all of these vertices. So select all of them and press M at center. Something like that, just to give it a bit more vertices, kind of make it a bit sharper, stand out a bit more. Let's select the middle part and let's just bring it up just a tiny bit because it's kind of going through. That looks much better. There you go. Let's do the same for the other side. Bring it up just a tiny bit, not too much. Let's just trying to give it this kind of crease that's forming there. Let's bring it up a little bit. There you go. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Go back to the front view. Kind of bring this up a little bit, make it a bit more smooth. Kind of bring this out a little bit. And let's just select these, bring those out a little bit as well. Same with these. Something like that. Just so it's a little bit more noticeable, basically. You should get the technique down by now. If you haven't noticed, we've basically been doing the same thing for every part of the shoe. Alright, so that's the midsole basically done. But I'm going to go in and add a little bit more details and I'll catch up with you guys. Alright, so I fixed up the midsole a little bit more. Let me just show you real quick. Let's just isolate it. Let's go in. So there we go. So let's stick with the same thing. I kind of got rid of the seams right there. Just added the bevel without the seams. Then I also added the bevel around the outside, basically the perimeter of it, as you can see. And I added this box inside here because on the actual shoe there's like a detail there. It's like extruded out. So yeah, I just want to select in vertices like this. And then press Shift E just to mark sharp, basically. So you end up getting something like this, as you can see. I just thought this step would be pretty self-explanatory, so I didn't really want to go step by step with it. It would just take a bit too long. Here we go. So just make sure you add the bevel on the bottom outside edge. What I did was basically I just selected it. So select this bottom edge here around the whole shoe. Just go around selecting all of it, pressing Alt like that. It's going to front view, and then press Control B to add a bevel about that big, something like that, and then scroll up once. Remember that. So you get something like this basically. So you can see the shape is kind of more uniform. As once you add the bevel, you get something like this. So I just go back in, select all of these faces here. And then press I to insert the faces in. So you get something like this, basically. So as you can see in the reference image there, let me just show you. See that area there is kind of extruded out. It's like embossed. So let's select these and press E to extrude. So extrude and Shift Z. Just a little bit, something like that. Looks pretty good. So as you can see, they're both exactly the same. Obviously I took the same steps to make them. So now we can delete this one. I don't really need that one anymore. So you follow those steps and you have something like this. So we're basically almost done. Make sure you save your portrait, by the way, you wouldn't want to lose it. So now let's move into the details on the outsole. As you can see in the outsole or the bottom of the shoe, we have this little detail here with the numbers and the Crocs logo. So let's just make that real quick. This is what I made already. I just want you guys to guess how I made this before I actually show you. So this is what it looks like. Just have a guess how you would make this yourself. Alright, so now let's make it. So let me just hide it. Let's go on top view or bottom view. And let's just move the reference image to the side a little bit. So I can kind of just see a bit clearer. So let's bring in a circle, so a mesh circle. Let's scale it down a little bit just to kind of fit in. Start with these numbers here. Alright, so if it's hard to see what you're doing, you can just select the reference image, come down to the image properties panel, and then go to transparency, and then just bring down the opacity of the image. Hopefully that'll make it a bit easier to see. So now let's select the circle and scale it down. We're just going to duplicate it. Shift D, move it down. Select the circles, Shift D, duplicate. And let's just move it down. Actually, let me turn on screencast. I just realized. So now if you look at the bottom left, you can see what I'm doing, the one pressing. So you duplicate and then let's scale it up. Just to kind of fit into the shape. Something like that. And then let's select these 2 points here, delete the vertices, delete these, and select the semicircle, Shift D, move it down on the Y, and then SY -1. That'll flip on the Y axis, and then let's just move it down. Let's put it about there. That looks about right. Let's select these two and then press F to make a face. Select them again, put the mouse in between, and let's just add some vertices. So Control R. Basically adding loop cuts. You don't have to do this, but I just like doing it. And now let's do the same thing for this other area here. So select it, Shift D, X, scale it down. Kind of just get it to the right size. Doesn't have to be perfect. Let's scale it up a bit, something like that. And then select about half of it, and let's just move it down along the Y to about there. That looks alright. So let's do the same thing as we did earlier. Just select the two, Control R, add the loop cut. About that many. Do the same for this side as well. Select it properly. Control R. There you go. Now select everything. Oh, kind of move that out of the way. Let's press the number. Yeah, there we go. Select everything, press F just to make a face, and then E to extrude up. And there you go. So now you want to select all the bottom edges, so every single one of them. And then let's add a bevel to it. So Control B, move your mouse up a little bit. Again, if you scroll your middle mouse wheel, you can add more or less vertices. So let's add about 3. So just scroll it once basically. Once or twice looks alright. There we go, that looks pretty good. So W, shade smooth, turn on auto smooth, and there you go, that's how you make it basically. So let me delete those because obviously I already made them. Let me just turn them back on, wherever they are. Give me a sec. Alright, so now that you've made it, all you have to do is kind of just place it in the right place. Make sure it's intersecting the mesh, and then let's select the midsole. And then go into modifiers tab, boolean, select the eyedropper, and then select this thing we just made basically. So as usual, let's select it. And then go to display as on the yellow box. And then let's go to bounds. And there you go, now you can see the boolean operation happening. And again, you can move it about to wherever you want really. And then all you gotta do is parent it to the midsole. So let's select it. And then shift select the midsole. You want to select the midsole last and press Ctrl P, parent, object, keep transform. Obviously I've done it already, so I don't need to do it again, but you get the idea. So now this is what we've got so far. Most of the shoe done, basically. Let's go Shift A. Let's add in a circle. Scale that down. Kind of fit. I'm gonna just use this curves to kind of write out the letters basically. So let's delete these vertices here. So let's on L and delete those as well. So now we have a C shape basically. So let's select one of them, Shift D, we're gonna duplicate it, and then extrude it into the next letter basically. So I'm gonna go around and do that for all the letters. Alright, so now that you're done with that, we're just gonna turn it into a curve basically. So select it, let me just bring it up a little bit. Go to object, convert to curve from mesh. Of course I have a shortcut, mine is just Control Shift U. So to make a shortcut, let's just go back into it. Right click on it, and then just add a shortcut, basically assign a shortcut. So yeah, let's convert it into a curve. You see there'll be like a new panel popping up. So let's click on that. and then scroll down to where it says geometry, drop down menu, come down to bevel, and then just increase the depth. And then you can see it's just adding some width to it. Let's go W, shade smooth, just shade it smooth. Let's go up to the bottom view. That's the Crocs logo done. So we're going to do the exact same thing for the other details basically. Now a faster way to do this would be to just use a text. So Shift A, text, and type in Crocs. And then add a bevel to it when you're finished. But doing it this way, although it's a bit long, I find I have a bit more control on what I'm making. But you can just do whatever you want really. But I would recommend this way. But it is my opinion, you know, do what you want. Alright, so once you've written everything out, we're just going to turn the mode into curves by pressing Ctrl Shift U. Or whatever your shortcut is pretty much. And then just add a bevel to it like we did earlier. Now you can make it as thin or as thick as you want. It's really up to you, to be honest. There's no wrong answers. We're just going to move him over to our midsole or outsole. I don't even know. Just move him over to the mesh basically, and then let's bring them up a little bit. Again, we want it intersecting with the mesh. So we're gonna have to do this manually probably. Just put every single one of them where they need to be. And then let's just close up all the ends. So select them and press F. And then we're going to bevel them. Control B. Just add a bit more geometry basically. And I'm going to do this for every single one. Again, you don't have to do this step. You're not really going to see all of this, to be honest. You don't have to add this much detail, but it's really up to you. So yeah, let me speed it up. Okay, so now that you've done that, should be done with it. Let's select everything and we're going to parent it to the midsole, basically. Like we did earlier with the boolean. So shift right click, Control P, keep transform. So now when we move the midsole, let me select the actual midsole. There we go, so together. Make sure you select the midsole last. There we go. Now we're getting closer to finishing the shoe. So let's borrow this over here. So select the Crocs that we just made pretty much. And then Shift D, let's bring it over here. And then Alt P to clear the parent. And then let's rotate and bring it. So it's SY -1 to flip it on the Y. And we're just going to use this as the logo on the heel basically. So it's kind of rotate it in place. About there. And all I'm gonna do is just come in individually and just rotate them all to kind of fit the right shape. So I'm gonna speed this part up as well. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm just gonna go in and rotate everything. So I'll catch up with you guys when I'm done. There we go. Now let's just parent this to the heel tab. It's Control P, Object, Keep Transform. And there we go. It's looking pretty good. Nice. So move on to the outsole. So let's get started with the outsole. Let's make this like little squares going around. So let's just start with the cube. So let's just isolate the reference image. Shift A, let's bring in the cube, scale it down, just to kind of fit. Scale it up a little bit, something like that. Scale it down on the Z-axis. Let's see. Let's add a loop cut in the middle. And then let me just pull this edge here a little bit. Try to get both sides. Go on X-ray mode. Something like that. Alright, so let's add a loop cut going across. And then maybe let's add a bevel on these outer corners. Pressing Control V. Let's just get something like that. Doesn't look too bad. Let's select these edges here, kind of like a cross. Let's press Control B. There we go. And then let's select the ones that are going straight in the middle. So let me just zoom in a little bit. And I'm basically just going to insert these by pressing G and bring it down on the Z axis. Something like that. Let's select these 4 faces and we're going to insert them. If you see on the reference image, there's like these little kind of pyramid shapes. So we're going to try to make those. So with the faces selected, go I to insert them. Something like that. And then let's extrude it up, pressing E and Z. And then press the period button and then go to individual origins. That's a mouthful. And we're just going to scale it down. Something like that. And let's just bring them close together. Something like that. There we go. And now I'm just going to duplicate this basically. Going around the whole shoe pretty much. So I'm going to speed that up. Alright, so once you finish modeling the little squares, you should get something that looks like this, or similar to this basically. So we're going to do the exact same thing for the heel. So let's go. Alright, so let's line this up with the midsole. Bring everything back by pressing /, and let's just drag it over, kind of line it with the rest of the mesh somewhere over there. Let's go bottom view and let's kind of center it a little bit more. So what we need is something that's going to let us control the shape of this detail that we just made. So we need something to help us bend it basically, because we're not going to go in one by one and do it. So select the midsole and let's just select all of these bottom faces.
Boy, you crazy.
So select all the faces at the bottom, like that, and let's just duplicate. Shift D, move it up, separate by selection. So P and then by selection. So let's grab these two and bring those down. Alright, so to bend it along the surface of the midsole, we're going to use a technique called surface deform. So let me select this and then make a gap in the middle. So I'm gonna just delete these faces here, just to keep the front and the back separate, which will make it a lot easier. So delete faces and then the separate it. So select one side, press P, separate by selection. And let's do the same with these as well. So box select 1/2, make sure select the whole thing. P, separate by selection. So let's start with the front. Alright, so we need to flip these little squares upside down. So select them and go S, Z -1. And do the same with the back as well, just to make sure they're facing down rather than up. Also, we need to flatten this plane. So select it, scale Z0, and then let's bring it down. You want it to be in the middle of the squares basically. And then let's parent it. So select the squares and then select the plane, Control P, Object Key Transform. And then let's select the mesh, come to the modifiers panel, the little wrench, add a modifier and go to, where is it? Surface deform. And then click the eyedropper and select the plane. And then press bind. So now you can see, actually don't worry about that, we'll fix that later. But anyways, you can see whenever I pull the vertices, it's affecting the whole mesh. So this will give us a lot of control basically when it comes to giving it a certain curve. So let's go back and bring everything. So all you do is select the plane, And then let's add the shrink wrap modifier. Click the eyedropper and then select the midsole. There you go. You can see how this works basically. Let's add a bit more vertices actually. Control R are some loop cuts. Let's add one more there. So now we just need to redo everything, reapply everything. So reparent it. Alright, so that's the end of part 4. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in part 5.